this video is going to be primarily about, well, it doesn't really have necessarily a specific subject. It's just something that I have to get off my chest. The beginning of this conversation has to do primarily with a spiritual aspect. To briefly talk about this topic, this idea, it has many sources, one of them being myself. In the course of my life, I came to a realization that was very astonishing to me at the time, which is basically that reality is a video game, a simulation, if you will. That reality itself, my existence in this form that you see, is something that is very similar. Our form, our body, is very similar to a video game console. It has a computer, has various means of controlling the avatar, and this body is an avatar. Consciousness, as a, let's call it a system, is both macroscopic and microscopic. There are individuated units of consciousness, and we are those individuated units, and every sentient being is an individuated unit of consciousness, a fractal fragment of a greater consciousness structure. And so with this in mind, we can kind of uncover the nature and purpose of our existence here. Fundamentally, it is to reduce the so-called entropy, as Thomas Warren Campbell calls it, lowering the entropy, or increasing the order and decreasing the disorder. High entropy means a highly disordered system. So what we are here to do is to lower the entropy of the greater and of our own system, not only of our systems of organization, but in ourselves. And so that was another source of this material, this concept. That and Bruce H. Lipton, who came up with some ideas as to how we might do the lowering of the entropy. But Bruce is not the source of my thoughts either. I discovered him after having created many thoughts that are very similar to his as far as the solutions are concerned. He came up with an idea that was somebody else's idea, which is wisdom councils. There's a man named Jim Ruff who came up with this concept, in which you just lotto people into a facilitated question of how are we going to deal with the waste management system in our area, for instance. And those randomly lottoed people will come up with an answer, and that answer that they come up with is usually, that they have to agree to unanimously, is usually more effective than if you had an expert on the case. And so the nature of this perspective is that we must, in order to lower the entropy, well, something that will naturally lower the entropy is love. Love binds together the aspects, the constituents of the superorganism that is our society, our government, or our culture, and fear, ego, and beliefs heighten the entropy, therefore cause disorder and suffering, as we have seen throughout the centuries. This is the case. And so the discussion then leads to a sort of a question: where do we go from here? How do we take steps to this brighter future? And well, to really give a detailed answer, I mean, for instance, what we need to do in the immediate future is to abolish the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has existed for over 100 years now, and this is 2014. It was originally established in 1913. It was written in 1910, the actual bill, or the Act, Federal Reserve Act, and it was actually set into motion in 1914 when the New York Federal Reserve first had its first meeting with the various contenders or owners or profiteers of that system. We live under a system that is not in the best interest of the American people. The Federal Reserve is a privately owned bank that gives us. The giving hand is always above the taking hand. We are subservient to the will of the Federal Reserve. Our government is subservient to the will of the Federal Reserve and the board of directors of that bank, that centrally, that privately owned bank. We need to destroy, we need to abolish the Federal Reserve, replacing it with either congressionally distributed or a currency that is originating from the Congress, which is where it's supposed to be, what the Constitution intended for it to be, or we can come up with a new currency or a new economy, a new economic system that no longer perpetuates the ego, fear, and beliefs that capitalism perpetuates. We need to have a new system. The people who created, or the people who noticed that this system was taking place, didn't have the understanding at that time of how the body's economy works. How does the body's economy works? That's what we need to look at as a reference for how an economy should work, should function. It should be based on the human body's energy economy. ATP is the currency or the money system, the money bits that exist in the human body. It is an energy system. I mean, the ATP is a source of energy. It's a currency that is shared throughout the cells of the body. And so we need to re-examine our systems, and we need to come to a conclusion where, what are we doing with this? What are we doing? You know, are we plundering this planet so that we can make a better future, or are we plundering this planet so that we can make a temporary bliss and comfort for right now, sacrificing the future? Are we sacrificing the future so that we can have a temporary convenience now, so we can be complacent and watch these movies and television shows and kind of veg out for long enough that we don't notice that the world is collapsing around ourselves? We need to take control of our systems. This is madness. So we go from the economy to, let's say, the education system. That's a fundamentally important aspect of our evolution. We need to go into a new direction. Instead of it being more centralized, heavens, what are we doing? More centralized? This is retarding and destroying anyone's interest in learning. No wonder there are people out there who are saying to themselves, why would I ever want to read a book? Why would I ever want to learn a new idea? Because there's a stigma that comes with our education system. There's a stigma that comes with learning because of the overall inadequacy, the stiffness, the deadness of the education system. There is no life in the education system as it is. There is no life in the average person's mind at this point because of that. And so we need to go into another direction of education. And it's here in this concept that I am alone, that I am unique. And so my idea, which may sound absolutely profoundly radical from the well, historically what we've used as education, but it's designed, this concept is made for the brain and the mind and the spirit. First, the brain. You have babies being educated, and you don't do it with a teacher and a chalkboard. You do it by having parents send their children to a daycare the daycares is Spanish speaking or Chinese speaking or French speaking or whatever speaking, whatever is the second, whatever would be a secondary language, whatever is not primary. You have the child being cradled, and you have them, being spoken to by that person. This teaches them a new language. This opens up their brain to their neurons to new connections, and this automatically begins them on the track of learning. And so this is something that basically is the equivalent of daycare, but it has a specific purpose behind it. And you'd have to have people in the background speaking that same language. So it would have to be a family atmosphere that this would be occurring in. But this would be something where multiple babies would be taken to this place so that they could have the opportunity to learn another language. And it doesn't matter which language it is. It really doesn't matter. What really matters is that a new stimulus is being introduced. And then as time goes on, you introduce new stimulus other than language. Well, not other than, but along with that language. For instance, geometric shapes and classical music. Over time, until that infant reaches childhood, at which point they will learn new stimulus, more stimulus. And this is the point of this. Until about high school or middle school, they're just learning through stimulation. They're not being instructed. Only until they can actually reach that point should there be a teacher there to adduce their skills. Let their brain build the connections so that their mind can then utilize those connections, and then for that, after the mind has been able to build up its intelligence, that intelligence then connects with the spirit through meditation, through isolation tanks, what have you. And after something like high school, well, first give an incentive that makes them want to stay in school. For instance, nobody gets to you don't get your driver's license if you don't graduate. You can maybe get it outside of school, but school provides you with an avenue towards getting your driver's license. Make the driver's license basically your diploma, essentially. Make driver's ed that would incentivize the students to pursue their education beyond and for them to graduate. However, that does not, them graduating school, the primary stages up to the age of 18, them graduating quote-unquote high school or young adulthood, that's not the end of school or of learning or of education. Education continues into their adult life, and that is something that you could convert malls into sort of adult learning centers, not colleges. Colleges would be for a specific kind of learning, the academic learning. The adult learning centers would be specifically for community activities and expanding awareness and consciousness, and more of a spiritual and fundamentally a more I guess individual sort of experience than something like college. And it's free. It would be something that would be free to all adults, no matter how old or how young you are. And so that's the education system. And then of course the government, as I said, really would be better off, we would be better off just using things like wisdom councils as Jim Ruff prescribed. Now I'm going to put some links in the description bar to some articles and to the other people who I mentioned in this video. Thom Campbell, Bruce Lipton, and et al. So if you like this video, I welcome you to share this video and all of the content that I'm going to leave in the description, and like the video as well. So thank you very much, my audience, and love and appreciation.